reasons, today's culture, be it in India or here or anywhere else, we just becoming not just skeptics, but we want to stay there. It's like being skeptic is okay. Questioning something is fine, but you got to try and figure out. And then once you get your path, then stick to it, right? And more than that, I think my grandfather was more into I got something which I'm ready to share. Uh, I mean, in India and even now, for most part, it's like it's free. You test drive it, you like it, great. If you don't like it, uh, it, it was, uh, it's just another step in the pursuit of peace. Um, so so actually three things were running in my head, and you know, um, so Eddie usually starts the session with an overview, but now that we're into it, let's just stick with it. Um, so, so basically, one last year, one of my eureka moments or moments which just comes to me again and again and again was like Mysteries of Peace, one of the chapters in my grandfather's 7-volume book on his journey through the pursuit of peace. Uh, so in that chapter, there is one line. And the more I think about it, it's so profound. It's like, so he describes what is peace and how inner peace is like it's inside and so on and so forth. And here are the ways, so 5, 6, 7 ways he described in this chapter that you can, faith is one, but, you know, uh, any concentration. And so there are all these ways that you either distract your mind or focus your mind and so on and so forth. But then there is one liner which just, comes back to me again and again. He says, so the biggest challenge to peace is worry and anxiety. And so why, um, do we get worried? Typically because the cause would be either in the past or future. So something heavy that comes back over and over again and consumes us, or there is some scenario that we paint and typically a negative outcomes, and we just got so get so it's becomes a cycle within, and it just like a spiral just keeps expanding, and that's worry and anxiety. And so if you are caught up in that spiral, there is no peace. So like you talked about mindfulness, and mindfulness is the most effective way to come to the present moment. You just like this, you are in the present moment, which I think is uh, it's rather unfortunate that we don't live in the present moment because of the most capable machine we got, our mind. Mind should take us, to the higher ground, but instead, because it either goes in the past or the future, we don't live in the present moment. Hence, our higher awareness levels if you're not in the present moment, how would you be really aware of everything around you and so on and so forth? But then he goes further and he says that if there was no thought, then mind doesn't have the ability to go in the past or future. I'm like, huh. So how, so at if we learn that art of, becoming thought free, and actually we have another satsangi who, very dedicated and, accomplished. And he always argues with me thought free versus thoughtlessness. So he prefers thought free. So I also, so now thought free state, um, if you get into, even for, uh, a moment, that moment ought to be worry free, ought to be anxiety free, because you have no mechanism to go in the past or future at that moment. So, I have to uh, slightly redo some of the um, description of these sessions, because it's not breath work. It is deep, silent meditation on transcendental energy, and we'll talk about that and we'll practice that. Um, but it regulates breathing. It does what mindfulness does as well and goes beyond that too. And basically, it's a mechanism through which, um, one of the ways I would describe is that you can get to the state where light, love, and peace are in abundance. And that I would call the target state. So there are many, many, many ways to get there, but this is one of them. And so one liner, that if you were thought free, um, then you're worry free. So I said, But then the problem is, how do we get there? Right? We are so I think Rich and I were arguing about, like, oh, if it is so natural to us, which, even my grandfather says that that's a joyfulness is, or peaceful state is a natural state. But it's not really any longer as natural as it ought to be. So, and if I look at everything that I have learned through my life, other than, satsang, most of those things take me away from peace, take me into, so there is no harm being thoughtful. I mean, right? But there ought to be some moments of thought free, worry free, because I kind of feel that we all want to be peaceful and joyful. And if that state is what it is, unfortunately, we are not going there. As a collective, we are learning everything to keep us away from it. So I thought a little more about that. It's like, I mean, even after all these decades, I was born into this family and so on and so forth. So very fortunate, but I still don't feel that this process comes very natural. And I don't know, do I really go into thought-free states? Um, so it's not easy. But then when I looked back, so my grandfather started a process where he said, okay, you come. He wouldn't ask where you're from, what you earn, what you do, what your religion is. It's like, you come, you learn from me how to be in this peaceful state. It's almost like, yes, I understand it's a difficult state to get to, but been there, done that, and I can teach you if you like. Right. So I think that's what I feel when I look back over the years, and was born and brought up in India, and there satsang was like just a family. So it's like, uh, my father used to have people come. So while he was a professor in chemistry, but there were people who would come to meet him every day. There was there was no appointment required. There was no, it was just, and that process of, through this open door policy, you just come in and you learn, and and then there would be satsangs, like actual meditation sessions, but even outside, you kind of learn how to live and integrate this process into your lifestyle, and see how, a person could be unaffected when things are not going so good. And that is like, and I kind of lightly say this, but becoming that Teflon, that things just happen and it just don't stick. Unlike us, who, something happened and it's just like, uh, circles and circles and circles till our stress levels go beyond, and then the hormones get affected, then the health get affected, and so on. So that was one. Uh, so I was, actually, on the TV on PBS. There was an Indian musician, very accomplished, obviously. So he was having, I think, in DC, Washington, DC, he was having a, open, concert. So he was talking to this, you know, um, this interview. So there was an interview, and he was describing how in India, and even till today, I think some of that, there is a guru shishya parampara, which is like guru and disciple. His father took him when he was 6, or 8, and and one of the masters in tabla, which is like a Indian drum, um, and he said that I, there was some test of some sort, and he said, okay, he has the temperament, um, and I will take him under my wings. So the guru basically took him under his wings. This, uh, this artist actually lived with his guru in guru's house. And at 16, he was, because, so he was, the master himself was so accomplished. So his first concert was with Ravi Shankar, who is a worldwide known musician from India. And what his guru said is like, don't get, um, you should not, like, there should be no pressure that you should feel when you play with this, mass. He was like, um, I mean, anybody would be, under so much pressure. One, it's a concert, and two, with someone who, everybody regards as, including, this artist. And, so his, teacher is saying that, I want you to play the way you play, as though you're playing for me. And if I see any stress on your face, the first egg will come from, I mean, that in India, it's a chappal, the slippers. But so I will throw something at you. Um, so yeah, different culture, different style. But basically, one of the other things that I wanted to talk about today was when my grandfather met his guru. He was like a normal person. He didn't show any signs of any, accomplishments or anything extraordinary. And believe it, there is the Indian government actually um, just a couple of years back, 150-year memorial coin of my grandfather's guru came out. There are four spiritual streams that, uh, like uh, kind of started from the other guru, which is my grandfather's guru. So millions of people have, there are a little bit of variation here and there, but pretty much the same thread, that the thing that we will practice today. For a century, it's like being just, been flowing free, and yeah, I mean, these days to get the congregations together, you have to spend some money, but mostly it's been very relatively free. So one of the talks I did on inner peace in India a couple of years back, there was an intro video that was prepared. And one line there also, so that video said that, yeah, Guru Maharaj and the other guru, they met. And, there's a whole story there, but there were no scriptures read. So both of them, I mean, and there are books, there are documentation, they're like enlightened people, and they have, and they never talked about enlightenment. All they talked about was like, I am connected to this source of energy. If you want to connect to that, which will make you positive, uplifted, peaceful, come sit with me. Right. So I was thinking about, like, they talk about all these concepts, all these, my grandfather in his 7-volume book, I mean, he would like, he has quoted Moses, he has quoted Sikh Guru, Guru Nanak, he has quoted Buddha, he quotes various other saints in India. He talks about all these things. It's like, so one of the things is that if we learn to like learn itself, in the sense that you come to a state where you have inner strength to be tolerant, you have inner strength to be a real human being, in the sense that you, instead of diverging your energy in the petty things, you you stay on the higher ground. That itself makes you receive or interpret and perceive things very, very differently. So it could be one-liner, and that one-liner could change the course of things, because, we have read so much. How much do we really understand? How much do we really implement? If we have the ability to do those two things, then it's not like you don't need the whole scripture just one line, one chapter could be a transformation. Because, if interpreted at the right level, where, in the sense that you be at a higher ground, and then in figure out ways to even rise higher from there. That's it. And the rising higher is nothing but becoming more empathetic, loving, compassionate, because joy will be coming then, not by doing those petty things. Like, we say it's kiddish a lot of times when describing others, right? Anyway, so let's practice, and then we can continue this discussion. So yes, it is very unique, but I think it is the group energy. It's the collective. Yes, it is online, but I think what you will find is that because the process is such that you will connect to the energy and connect to peace, light, and love in very effective ways. Hopefully, in a couple of sessions, if that actually is happening, then continue, right? Okay, so it's like manifesting transcendental energy, that energy that transcends the world. It's beyond. So because we cannot fathom, so it's think about light, because so transcendental energy in form of light. So light is right here, right now. So you can think of any source that you believe in, and the light is coming into your heart and distributing throughout your body, and you're becoming one with this light. You are getting completely and totally immersed in this light. So you becoming the light. So that's the process. So we're trying to manifest that. So you start there, and once manifested, you are the light, right? So two things are to start with, very important. One, you keep your eyes slightly closed, because sensory input is distracting your mind, and then your body in a still and relaxed posture. So any still and relaxed posture where the bodily movement is minimized. So eyes lightly closed, body in a still and relaxed posture. And now think about this transcendental energy right here, right now. So connect to it. And this light is entering your heart, distributing throughout your body, and you're becoming one with this light. Now, mind wanders away, which it will. It's natural. What you got to do is to bring it back to this thought and this thought alone. So this is, it will regulate your breathing. It will, calm you down. It will, do a lot of what a lot of other meditations do. But at this point, the only activity that we are into is observing this light and this light that's and that also, like, do not get too hung up on visualizing, or it's just like natural source of light, that whatever source you believe in, and it's right here right now, so not far away. So this light is entering your heart, distributing throughout your body, and you're becoming one with this light. We'll start with music. Music helps the concentration, and then music fades away, and we go deep into silent meditation, and then we transition out with music again. Let's start now. All right. Happy Saturday, everyone. I'm glad we are here in Satsang. Um, so before this is interactive time, so um, unmute and ask any questions or put it in a chat, comments, thoughts. But before we do that, Eddie, would you like to add something to the discussion so far?
Yes, if I may. I actually found the focusing on the light a little bit arousing and detracted away from my relaxed meditative state in a sense, but I did stick with it. And I was looking at like a circle where the light is in the distance, like a tunnel. And the light was very, very small. But then I noticed over time, after a few minutes, that the light spread and was coming down onto my head almost at an angle. And I got a little bit more used to the light, but I still found it, to be honest with you, just a little bit too arousing and detracted away from the relaxing effect in a sense. I don't know whether that's quite a common experience or whether that's a natural experience or whether I get used to the light or I just stick with what I'm comfortable with. I would think I prefer a slightly more dimmer, darker grayish kind of I hope I've explained myself fairly well.
Yeah, it's okay. We all start in different places because of where we have been and where we are. And essentially, you know, the way this process works is like it's a journey. And you know, there are other methods where at different stages you see different colors of lights, different styles, and there are other methods where you hear different sounds. So what that means is like as you go to a higher ground, um, your experience through meditation is different. My personal advice would be do not get too used to anything, including this state versus that state. So I kind of heard a little bit of that, which uh, comfort zones and, speaking materialistically or spiritually, we tend to prefer comfort zones. What is known is always, more comforting. But this is a journey to broader horizons or to things beyond. Um, so be bold and stay on course.
Yeah.
Uh, I,
So, in
I,
other words, let it evolve and it takes its own course, and you find a place that's comfortable for you, somewhere in between, maybe slightly, unilateral. But I have seen the colors, different colors in the past, really, and your experience through the meditative experience can change as well. I found as well, but yeah.
yeah, and another thing, another advice from my grandfather always was that let's not put too much thought into where we are, so far as we are sticking to the practice, consistent, deeper practice, and obviously, uh, some guidance always helps, but being in this, uh, you know, group itself, in itself is the guiding force, so to say. Um, and yeah, and let it flow.
Thank you so much.
Sure thing. So Eddie.
Um, good day, everyone. I think you covered today's topic very thoroughly. I don't think there's really much I can add. It's just except just to remind everyone that uh, in this world, this physical world, our consciousness is tied into material things and worldly activities. Um, and when we begin to practice this method, it takes us to a different state of awareness. When we turn within, that's when we begin to really know that there's this inner world that we were unaware of when we were involved in these worldly activities of today's world. So it's sort of a stage where it's like almost like an aha moment where we go, there is something to this, and at that point we really begin to practice it. Otherwise we stay in this realm of the world, and we try to find happiness and joy there, and we keep doing it over and over again. It just doesn't work, right? We're not finding it, but yet we continue to look there. But when we get to that point to where we turn within, and like Steve said, we start to experience these things like light and peacefulness, and then we become aware that there's this inner world that we hadn't known about before. And now we become dedicated to the practice and trying to achieve this higher state of consciousness. And so what you explained to us today is that, there are levels to this, and that ultimately the theme we were looking for in this physical world, the material world, is the peace. And so when we continue to practice, we will ultimately reach that peaceful state. And so I could sum it up by saying this. In this physical world, we experience more suffering than peace. When we start to practice this method of satsang, we begin to experience peace. And then ultimately we end up in the final state, which is becoming part of the ocean of peace. And so that's kind of what I understood you, telling us today so eloquently. And, I just appreciate it. And glad that I could be here to practice this simple method for those of us who have busy lives and have it produce such good results. So thanks for sharing this.
Sure. Thanks, Eddie. So any other thoughts, questions, comments before we wrap up?
Yeah, I wanted to speak
Hi,
about
Karen. Hi, Karen.
hi.
Hello.
I wanted to speak about the colors. I have also visualized almost like a glowing sun that expands and then seems to get smaller and dissipate and come back again. I thought that was very comforting. I thought that, okay, I was going somewhere else.
Yeah.
In fact, when it goes away altogether, I I feel a little lost without it. I lose some of my concentration. So I thought it was interesting that he found it distracting.
Yeah. So I think all I can sum up between you and Steve is we are going in the right direction. If so far as we don't get distracted or attach ourselves to any comfort zone, I think we're good. Because the Karen, what you were describing, I think you know I would say it's a great state, but associating feelings to that, like this is good and this is not so good, is kind of like I sometimes think about it as if I took a very recently a journey from, say, London to Edinburgh, and through by train, because I wanted to enjoy you know it so when you are in that journey, you see the seaside, it's beautiful. There's some nice countryside, it's so awesome. But I mean, the whole idea is not to get attached to any of that, because then I'll get down on that next station and go to, visit that place, right? And I think if my goal was to go up to Edinburgh, I am not associating myself to any of those beautiful things. And that, I think, is the key. Ups, downs, sideways, it's part of the journey. Good things are great, but bad things are part of the journey. Do not get dissuaded, distracted, or see, all consistent and deep practices go through a low. Absolutely, yes. There is no way you will have only the highs, right? A journey, my father used to travel a lot, and lots of times for satsang, and he used to say travels are so similar to a spiritual journey, because so unpredictable. You will be like, oh, the train got canceled, the flight got canceled, the food that was coming your way, nowhere in sight, and there is nothing around to go to. You know, there are, I can go on and on and on. Every uh, travel, every journey has its own ups and downs, and the idea is not to get stuck with any. Keep moving. So
That's interesting. I once flew into Manchester and took a bus up to Edinburgh, and um, I had worked all day and then flown all night from New York to get to Manchester,
mm-hmm.
and then the bus. The weather was horrible, always raining. The food was not that great, and it was the best trip of my life. Spiritually, it
Yeah.
just felt so good. I don't know why. It just felt good. Is that okay? Just
Yeah. Actually, that is
but don't get
exactly.
attached to it.
Yeah, that is exactly what I mean. It's like you go through so many hurdles and challenges, and you come back and you say it was a great trip, because it was. It's like the thing is that I mean, how many times I have actually, because for satsang I travel in US. I was in Manchester, actually, believe it or not, in May. And I think I should have a better schedule and a better website to announce all that. Um but the thing is that when we look at those things, so yeah, I have been sometimes like at night, oh, I thought like I'll go there and have something and there is no food, right? Okay, big deal. It's part of the journey. So I think it is, actually, we haven't been talking about hurdles as much, because there are, we are a small group because there are so many hurdles. There are so many things that come in the way. Uh, there are distractions. There are complete deviations. There are lows that sometimes don't go away. I remember I actually and this was more materialistic, but I talked to my mother and I said, like, these, so she said, oh, she was very spiritual too. And it's like, oh, these are clouds that will go away. And several months or probably a couple of years later, I asked her, so when do these clouds go away? So so Luz, you want to say something?
Hello, happy Saturday, everyone. This was a great meditation as always.
Yes.
And the topics of conversation is very interesting. I really liked hearing people's perspective on how today's meditation affected them. And one thing I was thinking, it is, I'd like to acknowledge that it is challenging not to get attached to like pleasant experiences. But the interesting thing is, what's wonderful about life, I think, is if you can sort of try not to get attached, which is challenging, I find that challenging. You open up the possibility to experience other pleasantries when you're not attached to like one, right? Like if you want to keep going to Manchester, you're never going to see Tokyo, you want to open up and expand your mind and sort of like open up the possibilities but transiently enjoying the moment. Like if you get attached to one thing, it's like you're zeroing in on it and you don't get to enjoy other things because you're exclusively focusing on that one thing. And then the other thing I was thinking, and this might be a little woo-woo, it might be a little out there, but the thing that, ultimately we're seeking, at least I am seeking, I don't know about other people, but, sort of like attaching to the divine, which I don't know if that's okay, but, and so when you're not attached to anything from this world, that also opens up your opportunity to connect with the divine source. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. It absolutely does. Because, I think when you transcend the world, I think you can translate it to that. And the only thing is that if you open it up further, for some, it's divine. You call it by some other name. To me, everything is, every divinity, every, sage, saint, God is nothing but this transcendental energy, which is this what transcends the world. And that energy is what drives, upward movement. The ocean of peace is nothing but being there, right? In that ocean where there is light, there is love, there's peace, there's joy, and all that is associated with it in abundance. So that is divinity in itself.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So it's like believe it or not, I've thought it several times, several ways, and one of the, like, even say in satsang, there were, so Guru Maharaj never wanted him to be called Guru, and a lot of people called him father or uncle or brother and so on and so forth. But everybody started referring him to Guru Maharaj, because in the Guru Shishya, the Guru disciple approach, this seamless transfer of knowledge or experience or state, like a higher state is transferred, just boom. I think it's as real as anything can be. So then there were like multiple people who continued the process So some people are connected to this person, to another person, to another person. So how do you reconcile? The way I actually, once I thought about that, was like the white light. So white light, when it goes through the prism, it actually becomes a rainbow. Same light, now you see different colors. So it can manifest in many different ways, many different people. So any person in any religion that people on this earth respect, I just feel it's this white light manifested in many ways. That's what. So divinity is, this energy, this transcendental energy, this transcendental light, which just manifests in many ways. So Buddha got to it very differently. Christ talked about it very differently. You know, Guru Nanak said, like, just all that can be done through a guru too. So I think everybody found it through a different path, but to me, it's like the same destination. Yeah.
That's like the best description I've ever heard, because I feel like that too. Whether or not my particular faith teaches that is a different story, but I believe that. I believe that. And I loved how you just described that the white light, when you pass it through a prism, turns into kind of a rainbow light with each color. It's the same thing, but it's manifesting in different colors. It's such a beautiful way to describe it. I'm going to totally steal that from you.
Yeah, absolutely. There was Kabir Das Ji. He was another philosopher and saint in India who believed in very, very similar spiritual approach. His view was that before you make bread, there's this flour that you were so the same flour you could use in multiple types of bread, let's say, right? Even you could make a cake out of it, right? Now they have the same thing has manifested in so many different ways. They appear different, but they're made up of the same element, he said, right? So yeah. So if we start thinking that, and consciousness to me is that same thing. It's like consciousness is what connects us. So we are in a different body, but with the same consciousness. And that's how we are integrally connected, because, and part of it then goes to the matrix. But anyway. All right. Great session today. Thank you all. Can't thank you enough. It's always a pleasure to be here. And bottom line is that for all of us, it's a journey. And together, I think we support each other directly or indirectly. And that's what satsang is all about. So on that note, have a great week ahead. So Steve, so I think maybe the Tuesday we meet 7 p.m. Eastern here, which is kind of late there. So Saturdays probably would work better. Yeah.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
All right.
In the meantime, Steve, you can send me all of your colors. I'll take them.
All right, all of the colors. All right, okay, yeah. There were quite a few actually. Yeah.
I'm Karen, so please just send them all my way, okay?
Oh, thank you. And I'll just experiment with the light levels as well.
Okay. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Take care now.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar.
प्रणाम भैया नमस्ते बाय एवरीवन
Namaste, Bhaiya.
Namaskar.
Bye, everyone.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
नमस्कार जी
Namaskar. Namaskar. Bye, Steve and AC. Namaskar.